Welcome back to Politics on the Prairie. I'm your host, Dan Williams, and today we'll be looking at the March 5th presidential preference primaries, comparing the performances of Biden across the state with his statewide performance and Trump across the state with his statewide performance. So essentially, what these maps show, as you can see, we have Biden's overall performance of 72.98% of the Democratic electorate over here. We compare in the green an underperformance or purple an overperformance in a precinct with the state, right? So let's dig into the data. It's been a while since we've done a statewide map. It took me actually quite a long time to find this layout. But what we see here is a clear trend of the rural areas, the rural Democrats, mostly not picking Biden. Now, a lot of these are characterized as protest votes rather than earnest votes for different candidates, since the primary at this point was pretty much over, right? Especially here in Cimarron County, we can see some stark underperformances, rather. And now I did disclaimer here: there is some very low turnout in some of these precincts. I think there was all of 25 votes cast in Cimarron County for the whole county. So while I will be reading into this result a little bit, it is not by any means super predictive, except for areas that have a particularly high turnout. So if we take a look here, we'll do our quadrant approach as we used to. We'll start here in the northwest. As we can see here, lots of green out in the panhandle, some smatterings of purple. We only really start to get a purple in the northwest as we head into Enid, with some overperformances here in central Enid, downtown Enid. As we move eastward here, you can see the Stillwater area had some clear overperformances for Joe Biden, as well as some areas in Ponca City. And notably, on campus, again where there's a lower turnout, we do see some underperformances for President Biden. Then as we move east here, again we'll get into Tulsa here in a bit, we can see overperformances in Maine, Bartlesville area here. But a lot of the rural areas outside of the Tulsa area, we can see clear underperformances. A lot of these leftover Ozark Dems, voting against the president by voting for other candidates, either Stephen Lyons or Cenk Uygur or Marianne or Dean Phillips. As we get into the area I like to call the Riverlands, we can see some overperformances in the Muskogee and Tahlequah metro areas and Okmulgee, but lots of still underperformances as we get here into southeast Oklahoma, home of the ancestral Democrats. Now, some of these areas you do see some overperformances, and I find that they have one thing in common most of the time. A lot of a good portion of their electorate, or majority of their electorate, is black voters. So we can get down here in southeast Oklahoma, we can see some of these precincts down on the border had an overperformance for Biden. These precincts here, specifically the southeasternmost one and this one here in Idabel, have a lot of black voters in them, as we can see, and we can see them sticking with the president. That is also the case for this precinct up here, Fort Coffee, which is a majority black town in Lafleur County. And I think that also holds weight out here in Muskogee County. You can see the town of Taft backing the president, the majority black precinct in Okmulgee backing the president over his statewide percentage as well as the town of Boley out there in Fusky County, downtown McAllister as well. As we continue to move through the south, we can see some slight overperformances in the town of Durant, one in Atoka, east of the tracks in Ardmore, again a majority black precinct, with clear underperformances at just about everywhere else. Interestingly enough, there are some overperformances in the city of Duncan on this side. I didn't note a preponderance of black voters here, but I did notice that one precinct did go blue here in the gubernatorial and superintendent elections, so there might be some Democratic organizing around in that area. As we hit the southwest part of the state / western areas, we can see there's some overperformances in the cities, specifically in Altus and in Frederick, especially in Clinton and Weatherford, with an underperformance, I believe, on the campus here, SWOSU. And as we also cap off the southwest region, we can look at Lawton. And I believe this precinct's over here around Cameron University, again, following with the university underperformance trend. But the city of Lawton, which does have a lot of black voters and is more urbanized and has more Democratic voters in general than rural areas around it, does hold a bit closer, firmer to the president. Then we'll move into the metro area, OKC metro area. We can see that Langston, despite being a college and notable underperformances on the college campuses, Langston being definitely majority black, super majority black even, you can see some overperformances here. Some in Shawnee, in the bluing areas in Shawnee. As we look into the Norman region, overperformances across the city of Norman except for on OU's campus. Not a lot of votes cast here. And we get a little bit more interesting as we head north in Cleveland County and we look at the Oklahoma City versus the Moore area. Moore being a little bit starker underperformances, whereas Oklahoma City precincts just west, a little higher overperformances. And as we get here into Oklahoma City, we do see a slightly worrying trend, in my opinion, though this might be due to turnout variations of underperformances in the south side. Now, this area is quite low turnout, but as something discussed nationally, if Democrats slip with Hispanic voters, this might portend to a different result as we head towards 2024's general election. But as we analyze other parts of this area, we can see clearly a very urbanized area of downtown Oklahoma City, suburbanized areas such as Edmond, or out near Piedmont, or even Yukon. Overperformances for the president, especially in the majority black east side, with some underperformances scattered about. One near UCO, near Broadway, which again, there is a small Hispanic population here, so that is interesting to see if that bevies out in the general election. And to cap it off with, we will look at the Tulsa area. As we can see in Tulsa proper, we see a lot of overperformances here, with no campus effects, interestingly enough. The University of Tulsa precinct being an overperformance, and Oral Roberts being quite an overperformance as well. A bit lower turnout, though, as you head south there. We can also see the black voters in North Tulsa sticking by with the president, with some underperformances here in the eastern part of the city. Again, trending with Hispanic areas. So it remains to be seen what happens as we go into 2020's full race there. But now that we've taken a look at the Biden percentage, we'll go take a look at Trump. And here we have a bit of an inverse map, if you will. Whereas Biden did really poor in the rural Democratic areas, we can see Trump did exceedingly well in the rural Republican areas. Now, Trump garnered a higher statewide percentage in his contest, 81% versus Biden's 72%, so a lot less protest vote here. Most of the protest vote was behind Nikki Haley for former President Trump, whereas the Biden protest vote was a bit spread out. So as we head here in the Northwest, we can see the whole panhandle is pretty strong Trump, with bits and pieces, precincts kind of scattered about, going a little bit more for Haley or Trump's opponents. Again, Enid stands out, downtown Enid. And then really what was really interesting to me is how far Stillwater kind of jumped out here. We see some big performances for Haley here in the Stillwater area, as well as some in Noble County, and then in the Ponca City area as well. And as we head into the Northeast here, a lot of strong performances for Trump, but we see some distinct overperformances in the Bartlesville area and in the Owasso area down here. And as we move clockwise, you can see that most of the Riverlands region is behind the former President Trump. But Boley sticks out here, as well as the downtown bits of Muskogee and Tahlequah, including one random precinct out here. It doesn't have a lot of voters. And as we move southeast is pretty much solidly Trump overperformance. A little bit of overperformance, or a little bit of underperformance here in Ada. Some bits across southern Oklahoma. And as we move to the southwest region, we see scattered underperformances for Trump out here. A little bit in Duncan, definitely some areas in Lawton, and some out near Clinton Weatherford and Chickasha. As we get into Oklahoma City's metro, we can kind of see the inverse of the map that we saw earlier. Trump overperformances in the south side, but underperforming in the Norman area, in the Moore area, southern Oklahoma City area, some in the Shawnee area. Mid-Dell stands out here, but really just hammered in the east side portion, the Hefner corridor, Edmond, northwest OKC, Piedmont, Yukon areas. Not so much in Mustang, but a little lighter there. And even going into the Logan County with southern Guthrie over here. As we go into the Tulsa area, really into the Tulsa area, and a region that I've often dubbed as the Republican Red Hook, and a series of majority Republican precincts that stretch into the Tulsa area, coming up from the south, going all the way to downtown. You can definitely see some underperformances for Trump in this area, including these two precincts down to these two squares right here, actually voting for Nikki Haley. It's very interesting that these maps do mirror each other. I probably should have combined them in some way. That'll be a good idea for a nice little one-shot map in the future. But that is a good indicator of where the squishy electorates of both sides are, even if there was a bit lower, quite lower turnout this time around, with only about 160,000 Democrats turning out and 300,000-ish Republicans. But these kind of set the stage for where the persuadable voters on either side might be, at least as far as a starting point. And we'll see how it develops as we get closer to November. I'm under no pretense that Biden is going to win the state of Oklahoma, but I do expect him to do better in the areas where Trump saw a higher protest vote, and I expect Trump to do better in the areas that Biden saw a higher protest vote. We'll see how that pans out as we get into November. Thank you very much for tuning in today. I have some interesting analysis planned very soon here, looking at Obama 2008 to the current valences of the State House, State Senate, and congressional districts soon, and comparing the shifts over time since then. But until then, this has been Dan Williams with Politics on the Prairie. Look forward to seeing you in my next show. Have a great day, and goodbye.